This week I'm going to be showing you 4 different lighting setups which can make your footage look a lot more professional, and they only use one light. Hello, my name is Cade and this is DSLRguide. So lighting is a really important aspect of filmmaking. It's something which, if your lighting is bad, then it will really show up in your footage. And having just a couple of simple steps can actually make your footage look way more professional. So I'm going to be showing you just a couple of setups, some in daylight, some in the evening, which I think are big improvements on the kind of natural lighting that was there already. So the first one is a relatively simple shot. We've got the subject looking from camera left to camera right, and they have a laptop which is also putting a bit of light onto their face. Now this shot on its own, because it was so dark in that room, I had just the tungsten bulb that was on in that room, and I was at ISO 800, so it was pretty dark. We're getting a pretty nasty image, and the lighting is pretty flat really. So for this shot the lighting was pretty simple. I just added in my ring light and put it in line with the laptop, because the laptop was already giving us a bit of light, so I thought I would kind of enhance this a little bit to make it look natural. And you can see to begin with it looks pretty bad because we haven't got any diffusion on it, but then when I throw some diffusion on there, the lighting is actually quite pleasant on the face. So that's the main thing we're looking at, is the face, and then the other thing is the background. So we've got some nice soft lighting on the face, and then in order to make the background a bit more interesting, I just added in this lamp, which was also a tungsten bulb, and that gives you a bit more interest in the background, makes it a bit more visually appealing, and kind of fills up the frame. And that also helps to light up the bookcase in the background. So you can see that just by thinking about the positioning of your light and adding in some soft light that's a bit brighter, we can now use an ISO of 160. We've got a much cleaner image with much more interesting lighting. So for the second setup, it was pretty similar to start with. We had fluorescent room lighting, which was again pretty poor, and we had to go to ISO 800. So I added in the same light. I just put it quite high up and pointing downwards, but from behind. You can see from the diagram where it is, but it essentially is on camera left, and this is kind of creating a rim light. Rim light is something that's really important to films. It makes them look really distinctive, and it kind of separates them from the background, and I think it's quite a professional look. But obviously we need something to light up the face as well, so that's when I added in a reflector. You can kind of see the reflector in the shot, but this reflector just bounces some really soft light onto the face because I was using the white side of the reflector. So we have hard light coming from the back, which gives us a really strong rim light, which bounces off the reflector and turns into soft light on the face. Now I think this gives you a really nice look. The lighting on the face is so soft, but it still is bright enough to be used at ISO 160. And again, with the reflection in the glasses, I think this works quite well. So this is a technique which I use quite a lot, whether you have a light source as the rim light or a window like I have in this case. You can just use the window as a backlight and then reflect it forwards as a key. And it's not perfect for all situations, but it's a bit different as opposed to just having a simple key light. So the next shot, we've got a wider shot this time, and it's in daylight. So you can see that if I expose for the face, you actually lose a lot of detail in the highlights out the window especially. And again, we're having to be at ISO 800 in order to get that exposure up. So this is generally not the best shot, although you have got a lot of nice soft light coming from the window due to it being a overcast day. So rather than adding a light on camera right and kind of losing that window light, I'm actually just going to bump down the ISO to 160, and you can see now that the face is pretty dark, but we do have the detail in the window. And then all I did was I added a light pretty much as close to the window as I could get it. So it's on camera left. Again, the subject is looking from camera right to camera left, so we put the light on the left, which gives us the brightest part in the middle. This is kind of the rule of thumb you want to follow most of the time. This is the most common setup. And again, when I add diffusion, you can see that this actually looks quite natural because you can see the window there, so it makes sense that the light source would be coming from the window, from the direction of the window. So this is a very natural look, and I think even though it is artificial light, it almost looks as if the light is coming from the window. It's not quite as soft as the original light, but it's bright enough that we can be at ISO 160. And then finally, in order to give a bit of rim light, but mostly just to make it a bit more open in the background, I just open those blinds, and then you can see it's a much more pleasing shot. This has a really bright and warm tone to it, which I think works quite well. So the final one is pretty simple. To start with, we just had the natural room lights, which are pretty horrible to be honest, and so again it was quite dark, so we had to be at ISO 800. So if I drop the ISO down to 160, you can see how dark it was, and then all I did was just added a simple key light on to camera left again, because the main subject is looking to the left, and with some diffusion on there, actually again gives us quite a pleasing look, it was just so simple. I literally just put it on the left and pointing at them, and it gave us a much better look. You can see that from these comparisons that without the light it's quite bland, also being a bit noisy and a bit you lose some of the dynamic range, whereas with the light you get some nice soft shadows and a bit more interest to it. Okay, so those are my 4 setups. So you can see that by just having one light and a bit of diffusion, you can actually change the image quite a lot. You can get your ISO down lower, which will give you a generally nicer image, and you can actually make some really interesting effects. So yeah, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed the 50th video, and I'll see you next time.